You're listening to the Bare Metal Cyber Prepcast, created to help you succeed in your PMP certification journey. Learn more at baremetalcyber.com, where additional prepcasts, books, and training materials await. Let's get started. Capital projects and large-scale construction work operate in an environment where safety, compliance, and formal documentation are non-negotiable. Unlike smaller internal projects where verbal approvals or informal fixes might slip through, the consequences of cutting corners in construction can include injury, regulatory sanctions, and legal disputes. Every decision must be documented, inspected, and signed off with evidence. For project managers, this means adopting a rhythm where safety and compliance come first, followed by structured impact analysis, the proper approval path, execution, and finally complete recording of evidence. Integrity is measured by whether the artifact's permits, inspection logs, RFIs, submittals, and change orders tell the same story as the work on the ground. The artifacts in construction carry unique weight. The schedule model shows dependencies and critical path, where even a day's delay can ripple through. Drawings and specifications define scope in precise terms, and when they conflict, a request for information, or RFI, is required to resolve ambiguity. Submittals are the shop drawings, material samples, and datasheets that prove compliance with specifications. Permits are the legal authorizations to perform work, tied often to safety and environmental conditions. Inspection logs record approvals by authorities having jurisdiction. Daily reports capture site conditions and work progress. Change orders formalize adjustments to scope, cost, or schedule. Together, these artifacts form the backbone of compliance and control. Scenario 1 puts safety front and center. An inspector flags a scaffold as non-compliant, but the scaffold is needed for work on the critical path. Some team members suggest proceeding carefully to avoid delay. Others recommend hiding the finding until the work is done. The pressure to deliver on schedule can be immense, but PMI's perspective is clear. Safety is never compromised for schedule. The correct action is to stop the affected work immediately, remediate the scaffold according to the safety plan, resequence other tasks where possible to protect delivery, and communicate the impacts transparently. The options in this scenario reflect the real-world pressures. Option A, proceeding carefully, ignores the inspector's authority and places workers at risk. Option C, escalating for a waiver, is inappropriate because permits and safety codes are not optional. Option D, hiding the finding, is an ethical and legal failure. Option B, stop work, remediate, resequence, and communicate, is the only path consistent with both safety and PMI's ethical values. The artifacts involved include the inspection log, safety plan, schedule model, and daily report. Updating these ensures that the response is visible and traceable. Scenario 2 deals with ambiguity in documents. A contractor identifies a conflict between drawings and specifications and asks for direction. The temptation might be to decide verbally on site to keep progress moving. Another poor option is to tell the contractor to choose, or to halt the project indefinitely. PMI expects you to respect the formal process. Issue an RFI response, update the drawings and specifications to remove the ambiguity, and log the change's impact in the records. This ensures consistency between what was built, what was approved, and what was documented. The artifacts in this scenario include the RFI log, which captures both the contractor's question and the owner's or designer's official response. Drawings and specifications are revised formally with revision numbers and dates. If the resolution affects cost or schedule, the change log and possibly a change order are updated. This ensures that future disputes cannot claim, "We were told" verbally. Integrity means that instructions are written, logged, and linked to artifacts. PMI situational questions will often test whether you take the shortcut of verbal direction or the disciplined path of formal RFI management. Scenario 3 examines scope creep under pressure. The owner requests a minor scope addition just before an inspection milestone. The temptation is to proceed, assuming the cost or schedule impact can be absorbed quietly. Another trap is to shift the cost into contingency without documentation. PMI expects you to conduct a formal impact analysis, submit a change order, and adjust schedule and cost only after approval. Formal change control is non-negotiable in capital projects because undocumented changes create disputes and undermine trust. The artifacts here are the change order log, which captures the owner's request and the documented impact analysis. The schedule model and cost forecast are updated once approval is secured. Daily reports note the requested change, and inspection logs may be adjusted if the new scope affects inspection requirements. By following this path, you show transparency. The owner sees the impact, approves it, and the records prove alignment. PMI's exam will reward answers that emphasize impact analysis and documented approval over informal fixes. Documentation discipline is the connective tissue across all these scenarios. Daily reports should capture not only progress but also conditions, weather, safety checks, and inspections performed. Photos provide visual evidence of compliance. Inspection signatures prove that authorities approved work before it advanced. Test results demonstrate that systems function as specified. Permit conditions must be tracked and communicated. For example, if a permit allows noise only during certain hours, daily reports should note compliance. The project manager ensures that all revisions are maintained in a single source of truth so that the story of the project is consistent across every artifact. Without documentation discipline, projects invite disputes. If a safety incident occurs but daily reports lack detail, credibility suffers. If drawings on-site differ from those in the records, claims arise. If permits are ignored, regulators intervene. PMI situational questions often center on these gaps. The professional answer is always to document thoroughly, update artifacts consistently, and maintain a clear line of traceability. This discipline may feel time-consuming, but it is what protects both people and projects. It ensures that when auditors, regulators, or owners review, the records reflect reality. At this point in the episode, you can see the consistent rhythm of capital project integrity. Safety first, always. When ambiguity arises, resolve it formally through RFIs and updated documents. When scope changes appear, handle them through formal change orders with quantified impacts. And throughout, maintain rigorous documentation in daily reports, inspection logs, and permit files. PMI expects you to resist verbal shortcuts, hidden fixes, and undocumented changes. The exam will test your reflexes, but the field will test your integrity. Both reward those who put safety, compliance, and documentation first. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other prepcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. Subcontractor coordination is one of the most challenging aspects of capital projects. Large projects bring together dozens of specialty contractors, each with their own crews, schedules, and interests. Left unmanaged, these groups can create costly delays, conflicts over site access, or even unsafe overlaps of work. Ethical project management means fostering coordination through structured meetings, detailed look-ahead schedules, and clearly defined interface owners. These coordination meetings are not just status updates. They are working sessions where risks are surfaced, schedules are aligned, and safety is reinforced. PMI expects you to see these as artifacts of governance, not optional conversations. Look-ahead schedules, often covering the next 2 to 6 weeks, allow subcontractors to align their work and anticipate conflicts. When delays occur, the professional response is to document recovery plans and monitor their execution. Recovery plans should identify root causes, define mitigation steps, and be logged for accountability. Payment applications, or pay-apps, should always align with accepted work and approved change orders. If subcontractors seek payment for unapproved changes, the project manager must enforce contract discipline. Fairness means paying for delivered work, but integrity means refusing to bypass formal approval. Subcontractor trust is earned when the same rules apply to all. Testing and commissioning form the final proving ground of capital projects. Pre-functional checks ensure that components are installed correctly and ready to operate. Functional performance tests demonstrate that systems work as intended under real conditions. Punch lists capture deficiencies and track them until resolved. Ethical practice means you capture all evidence test reports, inspector signatures, photos, and compile them into turnover packages. These packages, along with operation and maintenance manuals, are delivered to the owner as proof of compliance and readiness. Without them, owners are left with undocumented systems, which creates risk and undermines trust. Commissioning must also account for constraints like seasonal conditions or staged startup. For example, HVAC systems may require both heating and cooling tests, which may not be possible in the same season. Ethical project managers plan for this in advance, documenting interim conditions and scheduling completion at the earliest opportunity. Integrity means you do not declare systems ready without evidence. Instead, you communicate constraints transparently and leave behind a documented plan for final validation. PMI's exam may test whether you would skip steps to meet deadlines. The correct answer is always to complete or document, never to conceal. Risk management in capital projects often revolves around weather and logistics. Weather days are a known risk in outdoor work. Ethical managers follow policy, track weather days in daily reports, resequence work where possible, and use protective measures like coverings or temporary enclosures. Material lead times create another challenge. Supply chain disruptions can halt progress, but proactive risk management means identifying alternates, adjusting logistics plans, and updating the risk register. PMI expects you to see weather and logistics not as excuses but as risks to be anticipated, documented, and mitigated with evidence. Updating the schedule forecast is part of this discipline. If weather or supply delays are likely to push milestones, the forecast must reflect reality. It is tempting to present optimistic dates to keep sponsors calm, but integrity requires honesty. Owners and stakeholders rely on accurate forecasts to make decisions about financing, operations, and community communication. By updating the schedule transparently, you may deliver unwelcome news, but you also preserve trust. This is where PMI's values intersect with daily practice. Fairness, honesty, and responsibility are proven in how you communicate risks. Exam pitfalls in construction scenarios often come down to shortcuts. One common trap is verbal direction. A contractor asks, "Should we do it this way?" And the temptation is to answer immediately. The correct response is to issue an RFI response, update the drawings or specs, and document the decision. Another trap is undocumented changes. Even if the owner approves verbally, cost and schedule adjustments must flow through a change order. A third trap is unsafe work. Suggestions like catch up by skipping inspections are always wrong. PM, I will always reward answers that respect permits, inspections, and evidence. Another subtle pitfall is the idea of minor scope changes. On the exam, you may see an option to move costs into contingency quietly or absorb work without documentation. These are traps. The professional response is to analyze the impact, submit a formal change order, and adjust baselines only after approval. PMI is testing whether you will prioritize documentation discipline over short-term appeasement. In capital projects, the disputes that cost the most money are usually about undocumented changes. The exam wants to see that you understand this risk and choose the formal path. A helpful heuristic in these scenarios is to think in terms of sequence: permit and inspection first, then RFI or change order, then evidence. If the issue is safety or compliance, you stop work and respect permits. If the issue is ambiguity, you resolve it through RFIs and updated documents. If the issue is scope, you process it through change orders. And in all cases, you leave behind evidence daily reports, inspection logs, signatures, and photos. This sequence mirrors PMI's values and reflects real-world expectations of regulators, owners, and insurers. Let's consolidate these lessons into a quick playbook for capital projects. First, safety comes before schedule. Always. Stop unsafe work, remediate, and resequence. Second, document everything. Daily reports, photos, inspections, and test results form the evidence that proves compliance. Third, respect permits. Do not exceed noise limits, hours, or conditions, even under pressure. Fourth, resolve ambiguity formally through RFIs. Fifth, process scope changes only through formal change orders, never verbally or informally. Sixth, ensure turnover and commissioning packages are complete, with test evidence and O&M manuals. This playbook aligns with PMI's ethical standards and prepares you for both exam scenarios and real-world practice. The cultural impact of these disciplines is significant. When crews see that safety is enforced, they feel respected and protected. When contractors see that RFIs and change orders are handled fairly and consistently, they trust the process. When owners receive complete turnover packages, they have confidence in the project. And when communities see that permits are respected, they support the organization's work. Culture is built in the consistency of these behaviors. PM, I want you to see that ethics and discipline are not separate from delivery. They are what make delivery sustainable. By practicing this playbook, you also protect your own professional reputation. Capital projects often become case studies in either discipline or failure. Managers who cut corners may deliver short-term progress but are remembered for disputes, accidents, or incomplete records. Managers who enforce safety, respect processes, and document diligently are trusted with larger projects. The PMP exam reflects this reality. It tests whether your instinct under pressure is to follow formal processes or to take shortcuts. Choosing the formal path protects both the project and your career. The closing reflection is this: in construction and capital projects, your integrity is measured in evidence. Every permit pulled, every inspection logged, every RFI answered, and every change order processed tells the story of your leadership. If the story is consistent across actions, words, and records, you have integrity. If gaps appear, trust erodes. PMI's situational questions will challenge you to choose between speed and integrity. The professional answer is always integrity, safety first, documented processes, and evidence preserved. That is the foundation of ethical, sustainable project management in construction. Thanks for tuning in to the Bare Metal Cyber Prepcast, your trusted source for cybersecurity news and insights. Remember to subscribe at baremetalcyber.com so you never miss an update. And visit cyberauthor.me for best-selling cybersecurity books that equip you with expert knowledge. Until next time, stay secure and stay vigilant.